So we are off to a really violent month. And I thought that March was bad, really bad, for a variety of reasons. Hi, welcome back. Welcome me back. The trees have been trying to kill me on account it's springtime and it's just been rough for me. Something about losing my voice that's really unpleasant every year. But something that's even more unpleasant is a series of events that have occupied our minds in the media and to start with a teenage murder, but I know that's prejudicial. But there are so many stories right now about this killing of Austin Metcalf, and it's pretty hard to ignore. And then it's just all over the place. Everybody has a theory. Why did it happen? How is it that a young man, two young men who have a lot going for themselves, they're doing something seemingly normal, like going to a track meet. The boy who was killed, he went to track meets because he wanted to improve his speed in football. Not unusual. Lots of athletes do that. There's nothing out of the ordinary out of this entire event, other than the fact that one boy from a rival school brought a knife to a track meet. And there's some point of caution here that yes, people sometimes encounter each other in normal circumstances and they don't get along. And this isn't about getting along. There's more to this that meets the eye, but we don't have all the evidence presented before us. And then it's going to take some time to gather all the information about what happened. And it has to be examined more carefully rather than being trying and convicting someone on social media. But there's one thing that we cannot really ignore is the fact that why do you bring a knife to a school sanctioned activity? And it raises questions of how this young individual, what his environment is in bringing and feeling that he has to bring a weapon. And this is a bladed weapon, pulls it out of a bag. So this is part of his gear. He's supposed to be there running. It's most confusing, but it still bears to question why he felt that he had to have a knife with him. And I'm seeing some theories online now that perhaps this was on purpose. Maybe this was targeted, and I haven't really looked at those videos just yet. But this is a matter of teaching young people how to not escalate normal circumstances and just normal encounters. You're sitting in the wrong tent. The tent for the one school where he was sitting at, from bird's eye view of both tents, appeared to have been actually, I would say that this boy was sitting much closer to the tracks from the opponent's sitting area than it was for his school. From pictures that I've seen, this isn't like a full-blown analysis of a crime scene or anything like that. This is just a normal observation that you can list a variety of reasons why someone would be sitting in the other team's tent, sitting under that tent. But I think it seemed to me like he was much closer to the tracks. But why was he there? Each tent was clearly identifying which team they belong to, what school they belong to. So there was, and everyone obviously brings their gear to tracks. Clearly, he was sitting in the wrong place, and leading to a really fast confrontation of, "You're going to remove me from here? Then I want to see you do that." We were not there, so only making note of that statement, following by the attack. And anyone who's gone to school, even study basic anatomy and physiology, knows that if you stab someone in the chest, that's where the heart resides. We have a lot of organs in the chest, but the heart is pretty much offset to the left, but it's close to center. That's a fatal, that can be a fatal wound. And in the running away and being caught by police, and then the boy asking the police, that he felt fear for his life. Is that what it is? I'm not sure. Those his words really were that he did it in self-defense. He put his hands on me, and his perception was that he was in danger. And there's two of them challenging, asking him to move to the other seating area where his school was sitting, rather than they came in after him with an intent to harm. That was his perception, that he had to deploy the use of a deadly weapon. He escalated it to a deadly force encounter versus just backing off and saying, okay, I'm going to leave. So there's more to this. There's much more to this encounter between these three boys, because it's not just the two involved, and then you have the brother of the victim. And the victim really is the person who's dead. Of course, it victimizes two families, two extended families, entire schools, because everyone is going to feel that. So this isn't like a victimless crime beyond the person who's killed. But why bring that knife with you? And what's heard from the parents of the one boy who's arrested, he's under a $1 million bail. And I understand that the family's attorney is demanding that it be lowered. That's an interesting action, but it's worth observing over the next few weeks. This isn't going to be solved overnight. This is going to be he said he did situation. And I wanted to talk about de-escalation because it has been the whole week about nothing but people getting in each other's faces over something that most of us would really not even pay attention to. Some dispute, you're in my seat, or you're also not just in my seat, but you are now in my area. You're now in my area. I don't like you here. Look at all these stories. And this guy, Brock Horner, he became infamous. I wasn't going to go to the boat captain from hell story right away because, frankly, it just seemed like just guys going at it, somebody instigating and just letting himself get completely upset over something that really did not impact him directly from where he was coming from. Why is he's coming after another fisherman? And mind you that this guy actually claims to have a boat full of combat vets, and this is the part that bothers me every time, invoking I'm a veteran. I should be able to be allowed to engage in this rage for some reason. And I'm not going to play the videos are pretty. He boarded the young man's boat. They would have been held to pay. It happened to me. This is Florida, and they have stand your ground laws, and you never know. And I want to go up to my point here very quickly that every person you encounter, you should treat carefully because you don't know what's on their mind. You don't know how they live, and you're just not aware of whether they're carrying someone that can hurt you or themselves with. You should assume, I want to say in plain English, you should assume that someone is not carrying a weapon that they could use something against you. Someone could be armed, whom the person you're encountering, and you could be the victim very quickly. You're thinking that you got things under control. You let some words fly, and it's just easy to get carried away. And I know that the younger man should probably not have cursed at the irate man across from him. It looks like he came into a zone where boats are supposed to slow down because they scare the fish. I don't fish, but I know that if you in some areas, and I've done swimming and been in areas by doing canoeing and kayaking and stuff like that, and you get somebody with a big boat or worse yet, jet skis, which I hate, and they're zipping by, and then they're altering the nice state of the water, and then next thing you know, you're battling with a paddle, trying to paddle out of a corner in the water. This happened to me. That's pretty damn annoying. It is really annoying. This is hardly a reason to engage in that behavior where he's already been hostile and aggressive. By the way, he's driving boat into an area where the speed is supposed to be. You're supposed to mind the speed, and someone's already in progress, sitting there trying to enjoy his day's fishing. And the fact that he boarded this guy's boat, it makes me incensed, because if it happened to me, there would be some consequences. I wouldn't be talking to him as much. I've learned that There was a reason that I grew very cynical as a security professional, and there was plenty of reasons for that. And I was trying to soften my approach to a lot of things in life, but given given how easily we just jump into someone else's personal space and we feel comfortable doing that, not knowing who this person is, just the fact that we just felt like picking on them, and maybe I feel like people act in real life like we act online, and that I can say or do whatever I want because you can't reach me. You remember my video about the young lady in Japan who was brutally murdered by a follower? Of course, there was actually an interaction there where she and the attacker knew each other through some financial transactions. She owed him money, and then she didn't pay, so she took her out. You know exactly where to find her because she was doing a live streaming on location, and then he quickly located her and proceeded to murder her. And this is how easily someone can close in the distance between you and whatever you think your safety and security are. And it's pretty disturbing. And I'm finding myself believing less and less what I see, that my eyes, which is something that we're trained to do, but it's something I want you to consider is just because you see it or you hear it doesn't mean you need to be engaging in it. I had someone recently challenge me over nothing. Another female. The female, actually, the male who was with her was trying to hold the door open for me. I spotted it a mile away. I chose not to go out. I acted like I didn't see the guy. Ended up at another store. The woman decided that when I walked past her that she wanted to whisper to me some sort of a threat that go ahead and walk in front of me, not say excuse me. It's just insane. I just girdled on the way out. She got upset, complained to her man, tried to de-escalate her. I moved away quickly. I picked up the things I needed from the store and paid for them, and I got out of there. So I'm very cynical. I see people that try to do good things. Sometimes you're gonna read some ulterior motive. Yeah, sure. Why do they want to get close to you? So I'm starting to appreciate more and more that my my lack of proximity sometimes to people in unusual circumstances and even normal circumstances. Boarding a train and all that, people get too close to you. I'm always watching how close are they into my little space. I don't have a lot to work with. And this case, the boat is the same thing. There's someone who came into, he's ready for a fight. It doesn't matter what's going on with him and you, I was just enjoying my day. I was just enjoying my day, minding my own business. Someone wanted to close in the distance between me and them. And as quickly as you can move away, just put distance between you and the person who's be suffering from an altered state of mind for whatever reason. Don't stick around to find out. It's not your problem. So I'm more cynical today because I've seen some of these stories this week where I really try to be kinder and gentler in my approach, but it just doesn't work because I still read the patterns. And the patterns usually don't lie. And experience does not lie. It's the prejudice that we have within us, and actually the right to read into something and then ask ourselves, do I want to be in that situation? The answer should always be no, unless it's something you really want. You're meeting someone really nice, you find somebody attractive. There are different circumstances. You should be able to gauge that very relatively simply, but it doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. There was no reason for anyone to think that these two boys would walk away. One would be dead and bleeding to death. It's a very painful death. It's a horrific death, and witnessed by a family member. And this boy here is already thinking. His words kind of chill me a little bit. It's just a realization that he's thinking, I know I did something wrong. I escalated and I de-escalated and I escalated into violence. Whatever happened to using your fists, I don't know what else went on between the two. No one really knows because, frankly, we were not there. So we shall find out. But everything is leading to this was pretty senseless. And we're talking about teenagers, which kind of brings up something interesting I've been hearing about. I think that's not the one that I was looking at. Is I had to look it up because I was pretty prepared for this, but I had too many screens and I'm running out of application memory. So It's on me though. So this is Listens trailer. I'm just gonna do the trailer. It looks pretty wicked, doesn't it? I don't want to play it. I saw a scene here with the young man in this mini series. I don't have Netflix anymore, but almost curious, but almost scared to even watch it. Is close to real life, or is real life imitating fiction, or vice versa? We're dealing with teenagers, and now we're dealing with adults, just younger adults in 20s and 30s, just thinking if I just do X, Y, and Z in real life, there will be no consequences. This adolescence, I hear, and I didn't want to use that word, but I hear this show is all the rage, and I'm wondering, pun intended and unintended, I'm wondering how much of that is something we can attribute to all these violent incidents of violence lately. There's another young lady, 16, she was stabbed to death by the ex-boyfriend, teenager. So I didn't think that I have much of a brain capacity until I hit my 30s, to be honest. And I was doing law enforcement, and my training really helped me mature. Not that I'm not being in the Navy, did not help me mature, but that really accelerated because now you're dealing with all kinds of people and dealing with the law, and it's a different set of rules that you either mature very quickly or you don't. I work with some that, okay, professionally, it could be better on the job, have a better bedside manner, how you speak to people. Just because you believe that you have the upper hand and in an interaction with another person doesn't mean that you really do have the upper hand. You don't know what's on the other person's heart or their mind. And I always kept that in mind, and I've kept alive, which is always good, but it's just too much going on to even stop to think very deeply, where I could just see all the mistakes here. We have our own stabbers here, and I didn't want to make light of that tragedy. We recently had someone who he was with a female. I have no idea what the whole story was, but I heard in one of the local Fox News that apparently the female that this man who went on a stabbing rampage in DC, that she did not want to be intimate with him. I don't know. This is something that someone said on camera, which is interesting. When reporters get to talk to someone who's on the periphery of a violent crime, it's happened to me as a cop, where there's somebody in the background. They're involved, but they just like they don't know what to do. That's the person you talk to. They're the ones who know the whole story. That's the person you interview. You may put somebody else in handcuffs, but that's a person who's just kind of I don't know what to do, but they saw the whole thing. It's always interesting. This poor woman, they don't even want to show their identities. They live in that neighborhood. They just mind their own business. The man who got off the bus and got stabbed in the back of the head. And there are a couple of people now identified who he stabbed a bunch of people, including himself. He's in the hospital. And police said very diplomatically that he was under the influence of some sort of substance. Yes, I would believe that will be about right. Because let me show you something that I collected about a year ago with going to and from the office from homeless shelters in DC, and I think this is a dispensary. And the stuff that you get on the street is not. I don't want to play it again because I know it was a snippet. We were stuck in traffic. They were alive, but alive and dead at the same time, as far as I'm concerned. They just passed out. They were rocking. I didn't catch the rocking in the video. I thought it wasn't fast enough, and then we had to move on. And this is what we get here. The people think they're self-medicating for some reason. The marijuana that's out there doesn't cause a lot of things that you see people act under, violent behavior, stuff like that. Marijuana is cut with other things and I know fentanyl is a big thing that people talk about, but if you buy it on the street, you don't know what you're buying. That's the bottom line. And these guys think when they get hooked, they think that the marijuana is super powerful. And I think this being genetically modified to be more powerful than the weed people were smoking in the 1970s and 80s. This stuff is nasty, but that they cut it with other things. And that actually has a greater impact on on the user's behavior. Very addictive. Then they think they're just smoking weed is very casual. So I saw that. I was just curious. This is what the youth are facing, but this This isn't a video about drug use necessarily, but I wanted to bring that to the table as well, as part of the arsenal of thought. And that there's so many things coming at you in this generation, the previous generation. This is a proof that the parents or the boy who stabbed the other boy, just hands down, they're from the generation of midnight basketball. And I always thought that was really stupid. Maybe some people benefited from that. As a kid, my butt was at home at midnight. I better be in my bed. I better be at home, under control. I didn't like it because I was a kid. But people usually put themselves in a situation they can't get out. They can't get out of. They have no idea. This murder, it doesn't remind me about crimes of passion. And I want to close that. I'm going to give you another story here about perception on the media in these perceived crimes or perceived attitudes. I had one of my uncles, my mother's side, was murdered age 34. So I was around 10, and he was a cop. And he had my five cousins, and number 6 was in the womb. So he never got to meet that one. He got lead poisoning. He was shot many times over an argument off duty with people who knew him. So I thought that was an ambush. He wasn't in uniform at the time, but it just shook the entire town. And cop murders are usually more emotional. Any murder is emotional, or a suicide. And not to go into the details of the story, some of it, I'm sure my brothers would tell me I wasn't correct because I was much younger and I'm not getting all the information correctly. But crimes of passion, people get in the heat, like Mr. Boat Captain from Hell. I suppose to conflict resolution is something that I wanted to bring up at the very end of this. People, they lose credibility in their business because this guy is self-employed. The fact that he wanted to what was it that he wanted to show that he's a veteran, is that a higher form of what? I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm a veteran. I don't understand that. When I was a cop, I was afraid to say, yeah, I'm a fellow cop. When I sped a little bit, I'm going to say this, or I had to go someplace and interact with another cop, I was most respectful. And I know people I work with who would go off with other cops thinking you owe me something, and it's going to be chink, chink. That's what they owe you. They don't owe you anything. It's called professional. They don't have to do what you want them to do. I haven't had coffee today, so I'm kind of slow today. I need to pick this up. So I want to bring up perception of how people report what appears to be a fact versus you have no idea what's behind the story. And my cynicism has come back, and I think it's going to be here to stay. And as old as I am, I was trying to be kinder and gentler, but this is infuriating to the point that this lady probably went through a really terrible experience. This whole story about Jeffrey Epstein and the files, because the president has vowed to release the files, so telling the whole world how the rich and powerful have been exploiting young women and girls for their own pleasure worldwide, and a lot of people are going to get hurt. So that's the premise of the Epstein files, and we had yet to see anything that's worth any news headline, to be honest. It's probably because they're looking at all the stuff. It take a while. So this lady may have been indeed one of those people hurt, but she stepped into the light, which is I think is good, and also bad because then your whole life it's in the spotlight. So whatever you do when you screw up, it's all for the whole world to see. Posted something. This picture, she got into a car accident with a bus, got broadsided by a bus. I didn't know she lived in Australia. That's how little I follow the story. And she's going through a divorce. And divorces can get nasty. There's words of maybe she is being abused in a marriage, physically, etc., etc. There's a restraining order against her husband, ex-husband to be, and children are involved, of course. And the post is really taunting. I got 4 days to live, and it was really shocking. And I posted this on my own personal Facebook, and I thought I'm gonna take a stab at it. Like I joked about, let's see how many more of the Epstein victims are gonna start falling off the grid. And it just went silent. And then a few days later, it turns out that the bus driver, I saw some inconsistencies in the story, but I want to hear them out. And the bus driver's coming up and speaking, and now they're clarifying. She had to go on social media and clarify, but that post was for a private page and not for the general public, and that completely just shot the credibility. Not saying that what happened with the Epstein case and to her may not be legitimate, because I don't know. I don't know, but some people are very bad, and some people, human trafficking is pretty big business. And I have encountered it. I've seen it as ugly, and it's hard to kill. And that's why the Epstein case will be appreciated in the fact that we really need to find some ways to stop human trafficking. I know it's hard, but it's powerful and makes money. People get enrich off the miseries of others, and they don't care. And they protect each other. So credibility gone. I wanted to get to this guy. So this is before I go to our Father of the Year award. Yeah, this is going to be about did I lose faith in humanity? Perhaps a little bit more than usual. It's quick, and just don't, try not to believe everything. Just wait for more information to come. But this guy right here, Brock, he has his own fishing charter company. So he's self-employed now. That he's claiming being a combat veteran just because we got deployed to combat zone. I've been deployed to combat zones. There's nothing wrong with that. You can see combat vet, you got your campaign medal. That's cool. So what do veterans do? They start digging, because stolen valor, a lot of people that want to make claims, and they get into trouble, and they want to elevate themselves to see if maybe they can get out of trouble. So this is basically his information. Thank you for WTF Army Moments, my favorite page. Great for cheap laughs and reporting what's going on in the military in general. They're very good. I'm very entertained by this. I'm just going to look at it like it's pretty run of the mill. They're all laughing at him because he got out as an E3, kind of low ranking after, and what his MOS was. So not to make fun of those who are in that MOS. I was an E3 once myself, but I overcame that in school. You go for promotion. But he could be, this is an angry guy. Why is this guy even chartering boats anywhere with customers? And that's his own business. Reputation. Something that, who said that? One of the billionaires said that. Maybe Warren Buffett said it, but losing money is one thing, but losing a reputation, it's unforgivable. Money you can recoup somehow, but a reputation, not good. So if you have employees, if you got your business and you're still watching this, I appreciate it. Can you do me a favor? I've been on this for a while. I'm just getting warmed up. I have another video for you here coming up that's more positive, but I wanted to get this out to you. Please consider to and share and subscribe to this channel and help me out. And hopefully you're entertained by this chat a little bit. Just think a little bit if you got a business. And if you don't have a business, just how do you handle yourself? Do you want to be tricked into a confrontation that could end and with a deadly outcome? Or do you just want to walk away and go, I have a shield? And if it's cynicism like me, then be cynical at least until you get to know the person better. Father of the Year, this guy, I'm torn, but yeah, I definitely chipped away at anything that was left over that wanted to be kinder and gentler and assessing these cases, leaving 3 young children at the McDonald's so he can pursue a job interview. There are cases like this one in particular. The oldest is a daughter, 10 years old, being put in charge. She told police flat out, he does it all the time. Children make amazing witnesses. So dad was delivering a backpack to an apartment complex not far from the McDonald's. And even I'm asking, what's in the backpack? I have some theories. That's not the topic today, but maybe I could. I don't want to end up in trouble, but it doesn't look good for him to be arrested. And also people rush to make conclusions like they do with the stabbing with the boy, what they do with the guy he's high on something. Nobody's really mentioning that much. Governments create this atmosphere of encourage to do drugs, even at a low level. It can't hurt. We really need some serious change in the society, but that's me in a personal rant. But yourselves personally, your business or your family's reputation and credibility by not engaging in some of these activities or not even trying to indulge in them. Yeah, not enough information. Job interview very quickly. People asked the right questions at the right time, and they got their answers that it was not consistent with what the person has said that he was pursuing a job. But I've known people who just cannot afford to have someone watch the kids. I guess that's on a case by case basis. But yeah, somebody's gonna lose their business. More than likely, somebody else gonna lose kids, and I don't know what else. Someone has already lost his life, and another one will lose his freedom. And don't get trapped into, and people are looking like the bad guy even though they were victims at some point. Now they look like bad guys because they're trying to play some sort of manipulation game on social media. So do you see how all of this, it can be easily translated to our business interactions every day? Don't get caught up in weird things. I offer a I'm going to have a free de-escalation checklist. I'm not going to do a whole training. I can do those at your request. If you follow me, subscribe and hit the like button, I would appreciate it. And then when it's ready to go, then I would love for you to join me and furthering this discussion how to de-escalate things. We all get angry at some point. I don't know, I like a good fight, a good debate, but I've never gotten hurt. And I appreciate that when I needed to keep quiet and not pursue something, it served me well. And I want to be able to teach others how to accomplish that. But yeah, some things that can be learned today for all these examples and how de-escalation techniques, they're always good. And they can be learned at home, they could be learned in the workplace. They You can learn right here online and just make you think a little bit before you act. It could save a life. So happy springtime.